The stranger, who the reader soon learns is Victor Frankenstein, begins his narration. He starts with his family background, his birth and early childhood, telling Walton about his father Alphonse and his mother Caroline. Alphonse becomes Caroline's protector when her father, Alphonse's longtime friend Beaufort, died in poverty. They married 2 years later, and Victor was born soon after. Frankenstein then describes how his childhood companion Elizabeth Lavenza entered his family. Elizabeth is discovered by Caroline on a trip to Italy when Victor is about 5 years old. While visiting a poor Italian family, Caroline notices a beautiful blonde girl among the dark-haired Italian children. Upon discovering that Elizabeth is the orphaned daughter of a Milanese nobleman and a German woman, and that the Italian family can barely afford to feed her, Caroline adopts Elizabeth and brings her back to Geneva. Victor's mother decides at that moment of adoption that Elizabeth and Victor should someday marry. Chapter 2. Elizabeth and Victor grow up together as best friends. Victor's friendship with Henry Clerval, a schoolmate and only child, flourishes as well, and he spends his childhood happily surrounded by this close domestic circle. As a teenager, Victor becomes increasingly fascinated by the mysteries of the natural world. He chances upon a book by Cornelius Agrippa, a 16th century scholar of the occult sciences, and becomes interested in natural philosophy. He studies the outdated findings of the alchemists, Agrippa, Paracelsus, and Albertus Magnus, with enthusiasm. So I'm going to stop right here. An alchemist, they were the earliest version of scientists. They were kind of like chemists. You see the word chemist in alchemist. And but they also thought they could do things they couldn't do, like turn regular iron into gold. They thought they could do that. But they were the early scientists, but they were soon found to be not quite as knowledgeable as they thought they were. So anyway, he studies them. He witnesses the destructive power of nature when during a raging storm, lightning destroys a tree near his house. There you go, foreshadowing, lightning. What's he going to do with that later? A modern natural philosopher accompanying the Frankenstein family explains to Victor the workings of electricity, making the ideas of the alchemists seem outdated and worthless. So he's already starting to question the alchemists. Chapter 3. At the age of 17, Victor leaves his family in Geneva to attend the University of Ingolstadt. Just before he departs, his mother catches scarlet fever from Elizabeth, whom she has been nursing back to health, and dies. On her deathbed, she begs Elizabeth and Victor to marry. Several weeks later, while still grieving, Victor goes off to Ingolstadt. So, he's 17, he's going off to college, and his mother dies from scarlet fever that she caught from the girl she wants Victor to marry. Arriving at the university, he finds quarters in the town and sets up a meeting with a professor of natural philosophy, M. Krempe. Krempe tells Victor that all the time that Victor has spent studying the alchemists has been wasted, further souring Victor on the study of natural philosophy. He then attends a lecture in chemistry by a professor named Waldman. This lecture, along with a subsequent meeting with the professor, convinces Victor to pursue his studies in the sciences. So this is when he becomes a full-fledged scientist instead of someone who goes with more natural chemistry, which is what the alchemists relied on somehow. So, summary of chapter 4, Victor attacks his studies with enthusiasm, and ignoring his social life and his family far away in Geneva, he makes rapid progress. He's fascinated by the mystery of the creation of life. He begins to study how the human body is built. This is called anatomy, and how it falls apart, or death and decay. After several years of tireless work, he masters all that his professors have to teach him, and he goes one step further, discovering the secret of life. But they don't tell us what it is. Privately, hidden away in his apartment where no one can see him work, he decides to begin the construction of an animate creature, envisioning the creation of a new race of wonderful beings. Shades of Nazis there, creating wonderful beings. Zealously devoting himself to this labor, he neglects everything else, his friends, his family, his studies, and his social life. He grows increasingly pale, lonely, and obsessed. So I'm going to stop there, because in the next chapter is when we meet this creation that he's putting together, and we're going to talk about that at length.